Welcome to No Apology with Emily Danielson, but my name is Chris Danielson and she wants me on the show. So it's now called No Apology with Emily and Chris. Emily, what's happening today?
Oh, we've got a wonderful show planned for you, and joining us is our good friend, co-laborer. I don't even know what all to use to describe him, but he is the National Field Director of Christian Coalition, Keith Den Hollander. Did I say that? Did I announce that right? Keith Den Hollander. I think I flubbed it up the first time. Joins us now on the show. Keith, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Emily. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
We are thrilled to have you, but I got to be honest, Keith. Your background there, you look like you're trying to do a mirror of Making of Murderer or something. I mean, it's just like, are you trying to do your Trump?
Mugshot.
I mean, your background looks like we got you like just before the booking. Keith Den Hollander went on the Emily show.
Maybe we can get Mike to, take a slice from this and create a Keith Den Hollander mugshot.
Tell us about, before we get going, we got to talk about the background. What's going on, bro?
Well, they let me out of my cell a few minutes ago and changed me out of a striped shirt so that nobody would actually know where we're recording from today. But
that's right.
Oh, it's secret.
And the joke is kind of on me, and I shouldn't even say it, because one of the things that you are deeply involved in is prison reform with Christian Coalition. And I know I want to talk about that, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that we want to talk about. We've known each other for a long time, and we've done a lot of stuff together. We've traveled together. We've done work at the highest end. You're in D.C. a lot, and so you got your feet on the ground. Tell us, what is it like in the world of Washington, D.C., to not only be a Christian, but to be the field director of Christian Coalition? Before we get into some of the issues, tell us what that journey's been like, and are you seeing the darkness come?
You know, Chris, I started out at the state level, and working in the political sphere at the state level, you could kind of gradually see the undertones, and it became evident over time. D.C. was an entirely different world. That darkness that you're speaking of is evident from the moment you arrive.
Yeah, It just seems like it's everywhere when you're there. And I don't know why, but it just seems like the work of Christians in D.C. seems to have gotten harder and harder and harder since Obama took office in 2008. Is that fair to say?
I think so. But at the same time, I want to be careful not to say that it's all darkness there, because there is a lot of light there. You just have to look for it.
Tell us about some light. Give us some encouragement
today.
That's really
good to know, yeah.
You know, I spend a lot of time sitting down one-on-one with different congressmen, members of the Senate, and even different organizations that are headquartered in D.C. And there's a lot of good people trying to do a lot of really good work. They just get drowned out by the noise of the world today, where, the darkness has such a platform and the light doesn't have the platform. And that's why I'm excited about the No Apology show, because you're bringing that light out there into the world to try and combat some of the darkness.
Yeah,
honestly and authentically.
It does need to be done. But, this Christian Coalition that you're a part of, I mean, we're kind of on the same team. We're doing the same work. Tell us what Christian Coalition, what are they about? What is the work that they do?
From the very inception, Christian Coalition's always been about defending the family. You look at that darkness, it's creeping into families. You look at the just absolute destruction of the family unit today. And Christian Coalition's mission was, we need to defend the family. People of faith want their family defended. And there is no lobbying group that's out there specifically to be the association for the family, right? You got your realtors, you got all your other industries. They all have their associations that look out for them. Who's looking out for the family? And that's what we saw our role as.
Right. And that's just absolutely important, because, those lobbyists that are out there, they're out there lobbying for the sake of money. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. It amounts to them being able to make more money. But there is no family organization that's going to make money off a family staying together. But at the same time, that family unit is absolutely integral in maintaining a healthy, good society. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I know that you're in there, you see things that maybe the average person doesn't see. What are you kind of trying to fight against? What are
the big
those
ones?
forces that are tearing at the family?
Yeah, what are the big ones?
I think probably the biggest epidemic we're facing today is fatherlessness. There are so many families where there is no father present in that family. And when you look at the parts of society where people are getting into trouble, one of the things that seems consistent is you look at the high percentage of people ending up in prison, people ending up in jail. Look at the correlation between that and fatherless households.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the government's role in, how are they contributing to that deconstruction of the family unit?
It's an interesting question. They have incentivized family only through financial gain. The interest for a lot of people in getting married today is to get a tax benefit.
Right.
But when we look at the rise of social programs, you look at things like food assistance, you look at things like welfare, you look at Section 8 housing, all the ways that the government provides social programming to people. It's all incentivized the opposite. So you can more easily qualify for every one of those things if you're not a family.
Right.
As soon as you go to a one-income household, even if you're living together, if you're not married, now you both might qualify for some of these government programs. So they're incentivizing people to remain unmarried, to even to have children outside of a marriage relationship, because the more children you have, the more benefit you get.
Exactly. So we're starting to kind of see how this is all tied together, that those incentivizations, is that a word? Incentivizations.
It is now.
Yeah, I'm making it one.
We're going with it. It's real now.
Tears down the family. There's no longer that mother, father, children, and so on in a cohesive environment. And you touched on just a moment ago how that fatherlessness, when the father's not in the home, that's what leads to the wayward kids that find themselves in trouble with the law and ultimately in prison. And that prison is not set up to be the cure-all for society's problems. So talk to us about a little bit of prison reform and those things that you guys are involved with.
That's a great question. I think I'd like to back it up just a little bit from there, actually, to how we ended up involved in prison reform. When you look at people who are in prison and you look at things they have in common, we went back to the scriptures to say, what does the Bible say about a lot of this? And there's a verse in John 10, verses 10, and it says, the thief comes only to, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm sure I'm not going to get it exactly right. The thief comes only to...
That's okay.
The Bible idiot's in the house. Yeah, the thief only comes to, go ahead.
Kill and steal and destroy, but I come to give you life and life more abundantly.
Exactly.
And when I look at that, I say, what we're seeing here is a dichotomy. We're seeing that abundant life is placed as the opposite of killing and stealing and destroying, all the things that we are trying to fight against. And so when I back up before someone ever made it into prison, what were some of the things that contributed to that? A lack of abundant life.
Yeah.
And as the church, do we have an opportunity to help people achieve an abundant life? And what is an abundant life? And those were the questions we wanted to answer.
Awesome.
I believe abundant life is wrapped up in a couple words. Because of the Spirit of Christ in your body, with what's going on and in your heart and in your mind, your mind's been transformed, a la Romans 12:2. It is this phrase, and every Christian, when I say the phrase, will completely understand what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It all boils down to, it is well with you. And when it's well with you at the depths of your soul, you know subconsciously you didn't do it.
Right.
God made it well with you, and it's in His sovereignty you're trusting as you go forward, which makes it just an exciting, vibrant life. That's life more abundantly. That's John 10:10, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like, for example, when I go to an amusement park, which I haven't done much lately, but we used to go every year with our kids, at least 2 or 3. I mean, roller coasters, big deal in my life. But when it's hot and that line gets extra long, that is so annoying. but the joy of the roller coaster is so great.
You have that hope ahead of you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it is while we're standing in line sweating, we are still living the abundant roller coaster life.
Laughing.
And that is my Christian
talking,
analogy for how we can deal with what we're dealing with and rise above our circumstances, because life more abundantly in Jesus Christ is, it is well with you.
So what's your question?
No, that's my statement on his thing. I wasn't asking a question. He was talking about life more abundantly, and I'm like, yeah, here's an analogy. Here's something that I've been teaching people that seems to really help them in their spiritual journey. And now I'm done. Go, Emily, go.
Keith, thoughts on what Chris said? Are you right on or way off with that?
Yeah, we already started right on, way off. What do you think, Keith?
Well, I definitely think comparing life to a roller coaster is pretty accurate.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
For sure. And prison reform is part of what you guys do. And you're talking about finding those common denominators in why people are in prison. And you want to give these prisoners on their especially as they prepare for release and release, life more abundantly. And if you just somehow happen to like drop in on this digital download, no, Keith is not actually at a prison. That is an office in Michigan. And he just has it kind of have the prison vibe today, I guess.
That's okay. That's okay. But talk to us a little bit more, Keith, about just kind of the practicality of that it is well with you, and kind of breaking those chains and looking at, okay, we're seeing these common denominators now. How do we address them? Talk about that a little bit for us.
What you actually doing?
Yeah.
It actually started with fighting against what other people were doing. The initial foray was people were saying, let's just decriminalize everything. Let's just let everybody out. Let's put nobody in prison.
Right.
And we said, hang on a second, this isn't realistic. Like, that's like saying, let my kids do whatever they want and not punish them for anything they do wrong. How's that going to work out in the long run?
Exactly. They'll just continue down the path, getting worse and worse. Yeah.
Exactly. So we started looking at it and we said, why is there so much emphasis on getting people out and not enough emphasis on keeping people out in the first place? Why are we waiting until they're in and figuring out how to get them out? Let's figure out how to keep them from ending up in there in the first place. I mean, I think that's a much bigger win.
That is so awesome. It's just a slight change of perspective. The same heart is behind it, but yet it can be a complete game changer. So what are those things that you aim to do or to see take hold that will indeed keep them out?
So we looked at the common denominators of people that we're in. And a couple things we found. Kids in foster care. I'll just take my home state of Michigan as an example. Okay. 10% of the 13,000 kids that are in foster care are already involved in the juvenile justice system.
Wow.
So we've got a correlation between kids who are without families that are in the system that are finding themselves in trouble. Yeah. When those kids age out, when they reach the age of 18 and no one's adopted them, that number goes up to closer to 40% who become involved in the justice system because they have no home.
Yeah,
they have nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go for Christmas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do they end up? Well, a lot of the guys end up out on the streets selling drugs, using drugs, involved with gangs. The girls, a lot of them end up shacking up with somebody because they need a place to live and they've got no family. So they do what they have to do to survive. Unfortunately, they become victims of human trafficking and a lot of those types of things. And so we can see it right there, right? That's a lack of an abundant life.
I want you to share a little bit of some of the practical stuff that you guys are doing in this area. How, give me an example of a life more abundantly lived, coming out of prison, or somebody who, was in the justice system and kind of got out of it, and Christian Coalition made the difference. I'd love to hear that story.
I'll try to give you, I'll do it like a sermon, like one of your sermons, Chris. I'll try to do 3 quick points. But I will actually.
If it's like my sermons, they won't be quick. But go ahead.
And a prayer.
All right, hit me.
We won't be taking a collection.
No, not today. All right, hit me. So tell us a few of the things that you guys are actually doing to accomplish those goals. It's pretty cool.
Sure. So a couple of practical ways. One, let's start with the adoption issue. There are barriers that make it hard for people who want to adopt, who want to get involved in adopting kids. Sometimes it's harder to adopt domestically even than it is to adopt from overseas. And so we look at, where do barriers exist that would keep people from wanting to adopt? What are the things that are preventing them? And then we look at policies and say, what are policies we can change to do this? A second one, people that end up in human trafficking. For a long time, women who were human trafficked were often treated as if they were a criminal because they were selling their bodies. In reality, many of them were victims. And so we needed to work on changing laws to say, let's recognize that these women are victims, and men sometimes, it's more frequently women, but recognize that these are victims and not criminals, and protect them and get them out of that life in a way that doesn't criminalize their behavior just because they were being human trafficked.
I love it.
And then on the prison side, what about due process? What about people who are getting arrested? They have a right to a speedy trial. They have a right to be able to be released if they are not a threat to society. What are we doing with bail? Are we saying that, for example, someone who is rich is safer for society than someone who is not? If I have money and you don't have money and we both get arrested for the same reason, and I can bail myself out because I'm rich, am I somehow safer for society than you are just because I have money? We want everyone to have equal access to justice, not equal outcomes, but equal access to justice. And so we are looking at policies like that and saying, you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. If you're innocent, why do you have to pay to have your freedom if you are not presumed to be a threat to society or yourself or to others? And so we look at policies like that and say, are we giving people the proper opportunities? Are we doing what we can to help them have an abundant life? And that extends to so many. Those are 3 quick examples, but I could cover 10 different policy areas that all impact abundant life.
Yeah. That is so awesome. And the sad reality is that while Christians are out in this field that you're in, working in that battle line, a lot of Christians don't even realize that work is going on. So as people are listening to your stories, they're hearing how you're working and they're going, this makes sense. And we need these Christians in DC talking to our legislators. How can people get involved or be a part or even just follow along with what Christian Coalition is doing right now?
They can go to our website and sign up to be on our email list to receive our communications. They can get involved at their local state level.
Okay.
We would love to have people reach out. Our phone number's on our website at cc.org.
So your website is cc.org.
Yep.
It is. Yep.
That's it. So you must have got the website like on day 2.
We did.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Kudos.
cc.org.
Al Gore called us right after he invented the internet.
That's right. That's right. He said, because you guys are so like-minded with me. Yeah, that's what he said.
Right.
Hey, bud, I'm so glad you came on the show. We're going to have you on more and more as we get the show off the ground. Any final thoughts you wanted to leave with the audience today from the position of the National Field Director for the Christian Coalition nationwide? That was a Pat Robertson thing back in the day. It became a political arm, and then it just became where we're trying to save the Christian faith in D.C. That's kind of how I paraphrase it. But any final thoughts you want to leave with people who are just getting to know this new paradigm of Christian Coalition? Many people have heard it, but the media, when Pat Robertson was at his last days, was really trying to trash it. Well, you know all that. Tell us about that journey and throw in your final thoughts.
I think that the Christian Coalition's come a long way. Under our current president, Roberta Combs, she's really expanded the vision from what it started as. And she's taken it in a direction that has expanded our mission to something that can impact each and every Christian out there. Starting local would be my recommendation to people. Is DC seems like a big leap. It seems like a place far away. Start local. Start with your local township meetings. Start with your local community, your city, your state. You can get involved. There are chapters in every single state, and if there's not a chapter in your community, start one. Give us a call. We'll help you. We'll provide you with a handbook and get you started to start a chapter in your community.
Awesome.
I believe there's a calling on folks that they need to take their Christian life, their sold out for Jesus life, and they need to get involved in politics.
Yeah.
There are some of us who it's best if we don't. But everybody should vote their conscience. I get all that. The point is that there is a push out there to tell Christians that if you want to get involved in politics, you got to set your faith at the door. And Emily has been for years promoting, no, get involved.
Right.
What do you say to people who say there should be a separation of church and state and Christians shouldn't get involved? What's your response?
I would say there absolutely should be a separation of church and state from the perspective that the state should not be meddling in the church.
Exactly. It's a one-way deal here. Yeah.
So how should Christians view the path of opportunity in front of them to get involved in the political process and still maintain their Christian faith? What do you tell folks?
I tell folks that your faith should not be able to be separated from your life. I heard a sermon on Sunday by a pastor named Paul Washer in which he said that Jesus Christ is not part of anyone's life. He is your life. Mm-hmm. And if that's true, if he is your life, he's not a part of our life. He is our life. And so if that's true, it's going to permeate every single aspect, every single element of our life.
Yeah.
And that includes our involvement in the political sphere. And my warning to people is if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. And that's what we've seen over and over and over again.
I love that. If you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And we have seen this all the way from Constantine to today, how when the church gets involved, things change in a really dramatic way. And the suffering that people go through is alleviated because God is so good. We look at the civil rights movement, we look at all those things, and that type of work continues on today through organizations like Christian Coalition. So thank you, Keith, for being with us so much. I really appreciate you sharing what you do with us.
Thanks for having me on. It was great to be with you.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, you're listening and viewing, possibly, hopefully just listening, to No Apology with Emily and Chris. Our special guest, Keith Den Hollander. He is the National Field Director of the Christian Coalition. Website is cc.org. This is not your grandpa's Christian Coalition. They are involved in some great work.
Yes.
Check them out. We will be back right around the corner, and we got Mike Shaw coming in, and it's time for Right On, Way Off.
Hey, if you enjoy listening to No Apology with Emily and Chris, if you get any encouragement from it, please consider standing with us financially. Go to freshroadmedia.com and consider giving a wonderful gift today. It is appreciated. Welcome back to No Apology with Emily and Chris. Thanks for spending time with us today. You have a lot of choices. You have a lot of places you could be, but you're with us, and we are really glad. We're going to be playing some Right On, Way Off. Are you ready for that,
I am
Chris?
ready for Right On, Way Off.
But we cannot do that without our El Commandant.
There it is.
Mike
Bouncing all over
them. Mike
Oh, we can do
Shaw.
Right On, Way Off without Mike Shaw. It just won't be as fun.
You could do it.
True.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we headed today, Emily?
All right. Right On, Way Off. The first question or the first statement that I have for you. Love thy neighbor. You know it's in the Bible, right? Love thy neighbor as yourself. It means that we should love ourselves first. Right on or way off, Chris?
Yeah, I think within context, I'm going to say right on. I think that we do have to have a healthy understanding of ourselves, and that starts with forgiving ourselves. The problem with being right on this is that somebody might take my right onness to then justify themselves being their own God, because that's the epidemic in America. Everybody's their own God, and they want to add Jesus to what they got going on. Jesus says, that ain't how we roll. I sacrificed my whole life for you. I shed my blood for you. I love you. You accept my forgiveness, and then now we work on my terms, which are better than your terms. Yeah. That's
all right.
So, but yeah, you gotta. If you hate yourself, how are you any good to Christ? You know, if Christ loves you so much, can't you love yourself a little bit? Problem is, by being right on that, which I am, then people will take it to the extreme.
I know they pervert it.
Oh yeah, so I do need to look out for number one. You love thy neighbor as thyself. All right, Mike.
Yeah. Well, so I'm right on as well for all those reasons. And let me just put it this way, though. It's like you can't give to someone else what you don't have or what you haven't received. And so, our relationship with God through his son, Jesus Christ, our relationship with others is an overflow of that, as in blessed to be a blessing. So, yes, you have to forgive yourself. Yes, you have that right relationship with God. You have to know that you're not God. Because if you believe that you're God, you're going to start zapping your neighbors instead of helping your neighbors.
That's right.
So
That's true.
It comes with the right relationship with God and yourself and with others.
Yeah. Okay. You're both way off.
Of course.
Tell us what you meant, trickster.
When I'm looking at this, love thy neighbor as thyself, I think it kind of actually means the total opposite of loving yourself. That means like we're going to look out for our neighbor. We're going to make sure that they are taken care of as well. And I think that comes with a very...
Get it, reach for it, find it. You're right there, get it.
I'm not more important than you.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
I get it.
That's biblical.
And so I think that especially when we read the scriptures, like being crucified to self, and self is really very it's not a good thing
Okay.
in the
All right.
Bible, you know what I mean? And it does, and I think that it's for the reasons though that you guys very clearly, very plainly laid out, because it leads to putting myself as God. I don't have the power to forgive myself. Okay. But if I know that God has forgiven me, if I have surrendered to him, then when Satan comes with that pointy, bony little finger and wants to bring up those things that I know I have repented of. I know. Yeah, that. I know.
See Satan as Wicked Witch of the West.
Exactly. I can reach beyond what I'm feeling. I'm feeling, the devil's just throwing those arrows at me, and I'm feeling shameful again over things that I've asked God to forgive me. I can reach higher above my feelings and no, God has forgiven me. And so I'm reaching for that forgiveness, not the forgiveness that I give myself. But I think that, the rationale that you guys laid out was good. It wasn't bad. But let me just share a quick little paragraph. Ben Shapiro, he summed it up, I think, really well when he says, the Bible says, love thy neighbor as thyself. The maxim is predicated on being selfless and doing good in the world. The notion of self-love is the opposite of loving your neighbor. It demands no growth in character, no discernment of one's actions. Instead, it encourages narcissism.
Yeah.
So I think there's a level of that as well.
Yeah, and Ben Shapiro, I keep hitting the wrong button on that no apology thing. Anyway, sorry, viewers. I ran an audio board for 40 years, not this mumbo jumbo that Mike Shaw set up.
Are you saying the audio people are your peeps?
They're my peeps.
I thought so, yeah.
We still love you, Chris.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Love thy
Forgive
neighbor.
yourself
Love
and
thy
move
neighbor
on.
as thyself. I want to give you a different perspective to think about. See,
You had your minute.
stay with me. Stay with me now.
Okay, what?
I am full of self-loathing. Therefore, I
That's
can
true.
loathe my neighbor, and I'm biblical.
What?
Yeah.
I don't even know what you
It
said.
says love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I loathe myself, so I'm going to loathe my neighbor. I'm biblical.
I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, you're
I see
you
what
are
you're saying
Satan
there.
with headphones on right now.
Find your words, Emily. Find your words.
All right, it's getting too lawyerlistic up in here.
No, it doesn't say view your neighbor as yourself. It says love your neighbor as yourself, not loathe
Well,
your neighbor.
I know.
Not
That's what I'm
loathe
saying.
your
But I mean,
neighbor as
again, the
yourself.
English language, based on the original content of God-inspired, God-breathed language, through Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, brought to the English language, can have different meanings. So you go back and you look at what did God actually mean by what he said, not what did he actually say.
But I
Right.
think
And I'm taking it out of context
Right,
on purpose.
thank you.
I honestly thought
that's what I was
Thank you.
going to say.
I got to be honest. A second ago, when I finished that bit, there was just this little silence.
Yeah.
I thought that would be filled with laughter. Nope.
Okay.
Nobody got it. I got to go back and air check that to see how horrible did I explain
got-
that.
you
'Cause
gotta
that had
keep-
to be bad. Because I mean,
Don't
I'm literally,
loathe
I give the
yourself.
punchline and
Don't
I'm all
give up.
smug over here, like waiting for the laughter, and there's just crickets.
Right.
I don't like I said. I don't even know what you
and then
just
somebody exasperating, one of you two went, "Oh, I get what you're saying." Like,
That was me.
okay. So,
All right.
lame bit attempt of the day goes to moi. All right, next
Yes,
question.
And okay. And the next question, Robin Hood. We all know the story, right? It's a
Sure.
great story.
Yeah.
Robin Hood is a story about robbing from the rich and giving to the poor to make everything equal. Right on or way off, Mike Shaw.
Oh, yeah, I'm so way off on that. It sounds like the UN. Isn't that the UN? We have a climate crisis, so we need
Yes.
to sign on to the Paris Accords, which is going to cost the United States trillions and China nothing.
If only
That's a great idea.
if only Mr. Hood had the Paris Accord
Right, that's right.
in his pocket, he
Yeah.
would have been good to go.
Yeah. So no, it's completely way off. It's redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
Now I think in the whatever forest it was.
Yeah, Sherwood Forest.
It was the Sherwood
Yes,
Forest.
Yes.
Then things were. It was an unjust government.
Yes.
Who was overtaxing the poor and mistreating the poor, and so
Yeah.
Robin Hood is the protagonist who saves the day. I'm kind of right on with that, but even still, in today's world, with the problems we're having and with redistribution and the things that they're pushing, I'm gonna have to stay way off.
Yeah, way off. All right, Chris, right on, way off. The story of Robin Hood is a story about robbing from the rich and giving to the poor to make everything equal.
Can I be? I don't care.
You gotta pick. You're starting to go down this path of everything is, well, maybe it's
The problem with being right on that, because
Yeah.
I mean, is that not the story of Robin Hood? I mean,
I don't know.
I'm
We're
sorry,
asking you.
I don't hang out in Nottingham. I haven't been down
Not
at
for
the
years
Nottingham
now.
Cafe for years now.
Right.
I think that's the story, and I think it's done with a virtue. And I think in the original fable, there was a lot of evil from the people that had this stuff. They had gotten it, taken it from the people. So the idea to take that from them and distribute amongst the people, Robin Hood became a hero in that fable.
Right.
That fable, to use it to sell socialism, I'm way off on that
All right,
whole
very good.
scene. And so, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I believe in the meat sacrificed to idols theory in the scriptures. For example, I believe it's possible that two guys in a very similar looking neighborhood tonight are going to break into a store and steal a loaf of bread. And I believe that one can do it righteously and another is doing it sinfully. Depends on their circumstances, depends on their worldview, depends on what's going on. And can that be? Look at Bonhoeffer. He was part of a group that wanted to kill Hitler. Why? Because he was trying to save millions and millions of people. So when
They
you
were
hear Bonhoeffer wanted to
defending-
kill Hitler, immediately you say he sinned, until you look into all the prayer going around it where they were trying to save
He was
millions of
saving
people.
lives. Is what he
Trying
was
to.
doing exactly. So,
But again, my point is perspective. My point is perspective and knowing the whole story.
right? Yeah, knowing.
And
the
if you
whole
don't
story
know the
is
meat
true.
sacrifice to idols thing, real quick apologetic sidebar, then back to you, Emily. If you grew up eating meat sacrificed to idols, because in that culture, that sometimes the poor people, that's all they could get.
Yeah.
Because they would sacrifice to the idols in the pagan temple, then out the back door, the people would come and buy it.
Yeah.
And they'd buy it for pennies on the dollar.
Yep.
Because the other people would not eat it because it was sacrilegious to do so. The Apostle Paul says, if you grew up eating that meat all your life, it is not a sin for you to eat it.
Right.
Okay, if you grew up all your life abstaining from it because it was evil in your eyes, and now you're just going to eat it, now you're sinning.
Right.
That guy A is not sinning eating. Guy B is sinning eating. Follow. A lot of it's the intention of our heart. Even some of our good works are like filthy rags. Well, actually, all of our good works are filthy rags. All right, preacher, stand down. Stand down, preacher. Stand down. Emily,
Okay, it is way off. It is way off. You guys are absolutely correct. And Mike, you were also correct. The story was actually based on a true story. This is a real event that was taking place, and it was based on corruption. It took place in the Middle Ages, and people, particularly of the government, were taking advantage of the poor, and they were taking things that they did not have the right to take. They were stealing from them. So the story of Robin Hood is not Robin Hood just taking from the rich and giving to the poor so that there were no more rich and there were no more poor.
No, it's justice,
he was
really.
taking from the rich that which belonged to the poor rightly and giving it back to them. And that is why it
different
became
story.
such a hero and so on.
Like
And
I said, there's
so-
always more to the story, and knowing the full story.
Yes.
That's why we want to lean first towards grace and forgiveness, second towards judging correctly. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say when stealing a loaf of bread matters which state you're in. California, it's fine.
Right.
Right,
But
no, I'm
stealing,
sorry.
taking something that doesn't belong to you,
Right.
that's wrong.
Yep.
That is wrong. And so that's not what the story's about. It is
No,
not.
and I can give you a scenario where it would be totally fine, but that's different.
Okay. Anyway,
I mean, it's a make believe story, but I mean, if anyway. We're going to get sidetracked, and I can see you're exasperated. Go for it. Bye.
Stealing's never wrong. I'm going to give you an example, dude, because we were a part of it. And that was when we were in Alaska. There were people that would go out and do an illegal shoot. And they'd take a moose or whatever. And it was illegal because they were not doing it properly. They were not licensed. It was out of season, whatever. And so anytime that the park rangers came on this, they would confiscate the meat. But what did they do with the meat? Just throw it away? No. They would reach out to ministries. They would reach out to the poor people in the villages, and they would say, hey, we've got an illegal shoot here. Do you want it? And they would come and they would take that meat, and they would give it. They would put it to good use.
Yeah, there was many days 2 or 3 of us had plans for the day, and they got changed with a knock on the door because now we're cutting and grinding meat the rest of the day. We literally set up the butcher shop in our kitchen.
Yeah,
that's great.
Because the meat's there. What are you going to do?
Exactly. So the last question that I have for you, a little bit more on the lighter side. We'll end the show with a high note. Bongos for a wedding solo. Could it work? Right on, way off. It could work. It could work. Bongos for a wedding solo. Chris, what do you think?
I'm gonna say right on.
It's like meat sacrificed to idols.
Let's go back to the ancient boundary markers of our forefathers and look at the ancient culture. In Proverbs 14:4, it says, "Where no oxen are, the crib is clean." What does that mean to us today?
Yes.
In this right on, way off question, I'm gonna go right on.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say that normally I'd be and common sense says way off, but I think it could be right on. And that was your question. Could it be? And let me give you a scenario where it could be. Just the bride's brother is a professional bongo player, and he wrote a special solo just for his little sister. Doesn't matter what the dude does. The crowd's going to love it.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great scenario. I love that scenario. Mike, what do you think?
That is my report. I stand down.
And the sister's got a tear in her eyes. It's like, oh, wow.
Thank you, Brother Bongo.
You wrote the bongo just for me. I love you.
What do you think? Does it work, or is the rest of the wedding party and are they into it too, Mike? What do you think?
Well, if
right on or way off?
If you're skilled at the bongos, it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be like the dance for the new bride and groom. It could be. Or the dance with the dad, whatever the...
Yeah, I don't think the daddy-daughter dance is not going down with the bongos.
Not with the bongos.
I've seen a lot of them. Never seen bongos in one.
But I mean, so, I'm thinking of Miami Sound Machine with Gloria Estefan, some good bongo stuff.
Totally.
I mean, totally danceable. I don't know what key you play that
I think
in
she's
on
talking
the
about in the
bongos.
wedding ceremony.
Well, no, just the wedding song solo. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, but you're not talking about like at a wedding dance or reception. Your question was in the wedding ceremony.
Yeah,
Sure.
Could bongos be used? That's what you asked. And I'm like, I gave you a scenario where it's plausible.
The more I think about it, the more
generally
way
we're way
on I
on.
am. The more right on I am.
Right on. I'm
The more right
as
on
well.
I am because...
Go ahead.
It's your wedding. Do what you want.
There
Do what you want.
go.
It's your wedding. I don't
There you
care.
go.
I got
Even
one.
if it's a bad solo, if you want it, you can have it. Go ahead.
Mike,
What?
everything you just said,
Yeah.
I'm going to throttle it with one little word. Okay. Actually, it's a title for a human being.
Huh?
What did you just say? Did your wedding? Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Mother-in-law.
Oh, well,
Done.
that trumps everything.
Done.
Got to run it by her first.
No, Mike's right. It's your wedding. What do
Yeah,
you
I
want?
get you.
Yeah.
I get you. All right, what do we got left?
No, that is totally right on. And when you think about it, I mean, throughout history, a lot of major milestones in life have been celebrated with drums. I mean, Chris, you and I were even in Israel where there was a bar mitzvah going on, and they're marching through the streets, and it's with the drums, not necessarily bongos, but I'm sure that there are places in the world where that is done on a regular basis.
And immediately I was going to be way off because all I could think of is the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon Cooper started playing bongos at 3 a.m.
Don't do that, kids. No.
I mean, I don't know why that's popped into my head, but then I thought, you know what? If anything, look at me. I'm the guy who will want people to try to do anything. Any kind of participation, better to try and fail than to not try at all.
Yeah.
That's been our mantra to our kids all their whole life. Emily and I have lived that out, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, our light just went off.
Yeah, we're on the USB right now. So
does that mean that the show's over?
no, that means that they cut the building we're in is going through a remodel. There they come back on.
Lovely.
Yeah,
lovely.
Our battery backup kept us going.
See, that's what I'm telling you. You guys had a what's it called?
USB.
Yeah, USB.
Or no. UPS.
A UPS. Thank you. So the UPS, it's battery powered. So when there's a power failure, it still runs the computer and everything.
For a minute or two.
You guys already had that when I came here.
Wow.
Yeah, we had it from our Real Remnant radio studio.
It's brilliant.
Dude, I got a
their show.
$2,500 computer sitting in the corner that my son used for like high-powered video games for a while. That's what our radio station was in that computer. I mean,
how much do you want for it? I'll trade you a tablet. I got an iPad.
I'd rather go with like a first-generation iPod if you can score one.
We're going to have this swap meet at a different time because I want to say, I think this is important.
Yeah.
I think the bongos has gotten a bad rap in the whole drum world.
Yeah.
I think they have. They're kind of like, they when you think of like the annoying thing, bongos gets the label. You know what I mean?
Skilled with
culturally.
Bongos? Yeah.
Yeah. Same with the bagpipes. You know what I mean? But if you've ever heard really nice bagpipes.
Have you ever heard somebody that thinks they're good at bagpipes that they're really bad? I'm telling you, you take that memory with you, and immediately you hear bagpipes, and all of a sudden you're just in tune. It's like, are we live? Do we got somebody, or is this going to be? And then it's like,
bagpipes are hard to play.
Yeah.
It takes a talent, man.
Yeah.
But a good bagpipe player, worth your weight in gold.
Hey, we were at a memorial service this week or last week, and the bugle player for the Three Gun Salute basically had a speaker inside the bugle, and so he hit it and then held it up to his lips, and it played taps spot on, beautifully. I told Emily, I said, I would much rather have that than to have a guy that messes it up,
right?
Because the bugle in that moment, it's the sound it's making. It's not that actually somebody's playing the bugle. You get what I'm saying? And so I get it.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Where are we at? I don't even know what we're doing.
Well, I think that wraps up the show. I think,
okay.
the
lights went out.
The lights went out. That means 2-minute warning, and and life goes on again.
Yeah, like when you do stand-up comedy at a club, some people don't know this, but when you get 60 seconds to go in your set, they shine a light from the back, and they just move it back and forth, kind of like this, and you see it, and you have to give some sort of acknowledgement. Usually, you just do a little like that, like with your eyes, like, "Hey, I got you."
Your time's up.
And at 70, 80, 90 seconds, if you're still talking,
comes the hook.
They will bring the hook, and I've watched people get their mics cut.
Wow.
It happens, and that's a poor way to end a set.
Can we do that to Chris? Can we cut his mic?
He's got all the control.
I can cut Mike Shaw's mic.
What
are you guys doing over there?
You're like the Wizard of Oz.
I cut my own mic. Now I cut Emily off. Now that's what I wanted to do. All right, I've got the show. What do you guys want to do? Who wants to talk? Go ahead, Emily. Tell us what you think. Anybody got anything else to say? No? How come you guys... Everybody went silent. What happened?
Help!
You're like the Wizard of Oz.
I know.
That's awesome,
I know.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us.
Yes.
Emily, your final thoughts. It's your show. Hit me.
You know what? Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. And don't forget, let Christ impact every single aspect of your life. Your music, your wedding, your politics, your friendships, everything. Let it all be an outpouring of your high call to serving Christ.
So that's going to do it on behalf of my best friend and bride, Emily. My name is Chris. Mike Shaw has his new show on freshroadmedia.com as well, called Jesus is Coming Soon with Mike Shaw. You get into the Word of God today, and you go and serve your King. We are so grateful that you are with us here on No Apology with Emily and Chris.